Hi everybody, it's Jules by Jude here, and I want to show you a little piece of an earring that I found in some junk jewelry that I had, and it had an ear loop on it. This is kind of what it looked like, but when I saw it, I saw a mold, and I thought, gee, I'd love to use this as a mold. It's an ammonite, and shaped exactly like one, maybe a little bit different. This is what a real one looks like, okay, and this is the one that I found, and I'll lay them down like this. Maybe I'll use it like that. Hopefully you can see it really well. And this is about 1,000,000 years old, and it's a fossil, and it's an ammonite. It's from the sea. And the first one that I did, I said, let me see if I can try to make it look a little bit like the real deal. And I borderlined on that. Maybe the color's similar. And I put a Swarovski crystal in it and a glue-on bale. Okay. And a couple of the other ones that I did. Okay. Changed it up. Went another direction. Going to go another direction this time. And I'm going to show you how to use some of your pieces, which this one in this case, as molds. And I don't have to do anything to it other than to press it into my clay and color it the way I'd like it to see it. So let's get started. I have 2 pieces of clay here. They're cut in squares and placed on top of each other, and each one was a 7 on my pasta machine. Very well conditioned. It's nice and warm, nice and soft. It's white. I'm using white. You can use any color you want. I'm going to use Mica Powders. I'm going to use a flatback Swarovski crystal. I'm going to use my glue-on bale. Okay, and I used in this particular instance Craft Smart White. Okay. Now, as I said, I already conditioned it, and what I really want to do is make sure this is pressed together tight enough so that it doesn't come apart once I pull apart my mold from my clay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up like so, and I'm going to push this into my clay. It's making a perfect mold. I immediately thought to myself, this is awesome. So I didn't have to do any casting. I didn't have to buy a mold to modify. It was just 2 earrings. And I said to myself, I've never seen ammonite earrings like these. And I said, wow. Let's see what we can do with them. So as you go through your collection, you might see that there's some that you can do something very similar to, work with as a mold like this. And what I'm doing here is I'm just cutting off the edges with my tissue blade at first. Then I'm going to use another one of my blade tools to trim. Now sometimes you might want to use a little bit of sprinkling of some water. That will make it easy for the mold to release from the clay. And in this instance we are going to use some of our mica. I'm going to show you how we choose the mica. Well, how I choose mica. Okay. I'm going to lift that up off of there, and here's the back, and you can see that there still needs to be a little bit of trimming, but you need to get that up off of your glass to trim off some of the edging, make it a little bit more smoother. And doing so, we are going to release the mold at the top. Hopefully everything will go the way Jude wants it to. In a perfect world, it does. We all know how that is. So, but it is coming off and it is being released. I did not sprinkle some water on it, but I would had I in my trial practice had trouble, I would have probably already done that. Now, this is what it looks like. It's a white piece. I hope everybody can see that. If not, I'll reshoot it and we'll start over. But what I'm going to do is trim out the rest of these edges here. And once I've done that, what I'm going to do is show you how I use my mica, how I decide what colors I'm going to use. Now, I'll tell you what, the white is easy. You could use anything on white. Anything that your heart desires can be used with the white clay. Okay? And, you know, nowadays, it doesn't have to be exact. I know there's a lot of videos out there that show you how to make flux stones and other different types of material pieces and items, and you try to make them look exactly like that piece. But that's not what I'm going to do here. I really rather put some color into this piece. The normal ammonite is beautiful. I'm not saying it's not. It's natural. The natural color are browns and blacks with some specks of white and stuff like that. So we got it here, and we will trim this up just a little bit like this, a little bit more. I'm going to cut the tip off because we're not going to put a drill through at the top of it. We're going to do a glue-on bail, and I still like to do a little bit of trimming. Let me see what my sides look like. I'm going to smooth them out. Use this. There are other ways that we used in the past, like the parchment paper and the plastic wrap, and in some of our pieces it's more difficult to use something like that because we're really trying to form, and I might even put the mold over top of it back again just to make sure that the impression is well and that you can see it, and it will show up very beautifully with the different colors I'm going to use. And mica powder can be found in the mixed media at Michael's. They have quite a good supply, especially if you have a big store of Michael's. If you have a big one, even if you have a small one, because we actually have a couple Michael's and a couple Joann's and a Hobby Lobby close by. I'm quite lucky in this area if you're a crafter and enjoy shopping at those places. Now, if you feel the need to make sure your impression is solid and striking, you can lay it back over top like I just did. Okay? Now, how do you pick your colors? Well, first of all, generally, if you go into one of these stores and you happen to find your colors, your mica powder, some of them might look like this. This is called Pearl X. Okay, now this is really beautiful. This is this color here. This is how it came out. And it's a red-blue mica. Okay, and this is a little bit more on the generic side. I'm not really sure I have the name of these, but these work well. They last forever. And these are the Pearl X's. They have all sorts of different mixtures, and they are very much more flashy than some of the others. This one is a sparkle. looks like. So what we're gonna do, what I try to do is take some of my scraps. In this case, it's on the white side. We're gonna take the lids off, and we're gonna try to see what they look like. And hopefully you get a really good shot of these. See, this is very pretty. And you can go on and do a blend. And as you can see, there is a whole lot of color in a small amount of powder. So sometimes you want to dust that off. That's a pretty color. I don't know if this is the one I used first. No, I don't think so. I think it was. Okay, there you go. I can see. I think you can see that sparkle there. And I believe I'm going to use, I've already decided what I'm going to do, and I want to show you how I decided that. But I just want to see if you can see some of these colors on here. And they're very, very beautiful, especially if you are moving your piece about different directions. So what I'm going to show you is on a piece of clay what I am going to attempt to do on my ammonite before I bake it. Sometimes you can do it afterwards. You can put glaze on afterwards. You can keep it the same. If you put the mica powder on while the clay is unbaked, then it will generally bake into the clay, and you'll have very little amount of mica come off your clay after it's been baked. I'm not saying that it will completely bake in, but you can rub off the excess if there is any, but it will generally bake into the clay. You want to be gradual, especially if you're using an impressed piece where you don't want to distort it. Now this is a green, a blue, and a pink. And I especially do like this blend. You're talking about a blend, I'm going to tap a little bit on there, and I'm going to start with my green on one side. It does not matter what side I start on, where I start. What matters is how I do my blend and the colors that I use. Okay? So when using these colors, I'm going to spread them out quite a bit. I'm trying to make it look a little bit on the 70s side, a little hippie, a little psychedelic, as you can see as the streaks go through. I usually have pretty good success with this color combination, and it's also very popular. Now what I'm doing now is blending, and when I do begin to do this on my actual piece, I need to be a little careful about, like I said, distortion of my clay, because my clay is not baked. So that's how I come up with some of my colors. It's a lot of testing, and it's the best thing to do. You know, white is easy, I'm going to tell you. And to be honest with you, a lot of times black is too. You just have to make sure you don't have anything too dark. But testing your color combinations, your blends with your micas, even your alcohol inks, when we start to do alcohol inks, would be advisable to do that as well. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to work on my piece here while you guys are watching me. And then cross my fingers that the piece comes out well. I'm going to use my baking sheet. Push it forward a little bit. Hopefully you can see that. I think I'm going to start with my pink. Now this is a baking sheet, and if you look at some of this sheeting here, you can also find this in Michael's. I don't think that Joanne has this sheet, and they may, especially the larger Joanne's may, but I do know Hobby Lobby does. Same with the mica powders. They have a bigger, better collection. Where's my green? So I'm going to just do a little bit of a psychedelic combination here. done these with feathers, they often come out pretty well. Feathers, they take on this mica, the creases inside of each of the molds that we use, if you're using a mold, or the divots, they come out pretty good too. And you just want to blend, if you're blending, which I hope you are, because this would be a little bit harder to do if it was one solid color all the way through with 3 colors in this instance. And what you have, hopefully, and I'm going to do around the sides. Sometimes we sand, and you'll have to sand, and if you do, you might be able to apply your mica afterwards as well, but I like to give it a real good shot at putting it on the sides, and you're going to see me transfer it also onto my hand so that I can apply it on the back. Now this sheet you can work on, it will clean up. You could bake on it. And I'm also going to color my back now, so I don't have to use another baking time. We're going to try to do it in one baking time instead of more than one, and I'm doing it very gently so that once again it's in my hands. I don't have a desire to make this a totally flat back where I want to sand it and refine it. It's the back of the piece. I want to just color it so that if it does happen to flip over, you could see some of the design on the back. I might change my mind. If I do, I'll have to reapply and rebake, which is fine. Happens all the time. Every piece that we do as artists takes time to design and trial and error. So if this is not going to be something that I like once it comes out, I will make it to my liking. I'll sand it all back down and I'll reapply and do it from there. There's not always a written step-by-step instructions on what you're doing. Not according to me. I like to take a example of a piece that maybe an artist, or 2 or 3 examples that an artist has done, combine them, add a few of my own ideas, and work on a piece in that direction. That's my whole desire, and that's why I'm showing you. I'm even going to blow on this, blow some of that excess off. Now, the next thing for us to do is to make a choice. Do I want to put a Swarovski crystal in the center? Well, you're asking the wrong person that question, because it's almost always yes for me. So I'm going to pick out a Swarovski crystal. And looks like the spectrum is pretty wide here because of my color choices. Now, once again, if you choose to do this, you can apply it now, which I'm going to do. If I have enough clay to come up around the sides, it should hold very well. If you feel like you don't, you may want to apply some adhesive before you bake it and before you apply the Swarovski crystal to the actual piece. In this instance, I can see that it is gently touching the edges of my flat back Swarovski crystal. So I feel pretty good about the security of the crystal in the piece. If it happens to fall off, or you can, and you should test it to make sure that it will stay afterwards, then what will happen is if it falls off, you can just go ahead and apply it with a little dab of glue. I use Gorilla Glue, usually the brush one I use, and I apply that and it sticks. The Gorilla Glue works very well for me. It's the E6000. I don't use too much. I just have not picked up on that glue. I'm not using it correctly. I'm just not a big fan. I like the Gorilla Glue. It works for me quite well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a moment. We're going to splice this video together for you. I'm going to bake this at a temperature of approximately 200 degrees for approximately 30 minutes. And then I'll meet you back here. Hey everybody, we're back. Well, it came out pretty good. I'd like to show you. This is what it looks like. I did have to do some shaving here or there, and I think it came out pretty good. I like it. I'm going to put a bail on it. I'm going to show you, well, how you might want to place your bail on. There's the normal way that I've been placing it is like that. Okay? And again, like that. All right? And this one doesn't have a bail on it, but we have that. So I do believe that that's about where I'm going to place it. Let me see. I might change this one up a little bit differently. Let's see if we can show you. It could look like something along those lines. If you can see that. There are scraps. Let's get that out of the way. It'll look like that. It could also be turned around if that's the way you'd like it. Let me see. They mostly put them up at the top. I don't know if I've ever seen one turned upside down. So I'm going to continue with that style. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on my glue-on bowl. It's a nice little pretty heart shape. It does not take long at all to dry. Okay. That's it. That is the one we created today. I do take pride in this one. I really do like this color. So just to reiterate, what I'd like to say is that you can take these pieces as we have them here and use these as molds. And there are all sorts of jewelry, scrap pieces, costume jewelry that you can use, that you might be able to use as a mold. And I would just try what you have and work with it, and you never know what you can come up with. But this is another good idea, and I'm going to continue to work on these pieces a little bit more, maybe perfect them a little bit more to see how I can come out with. We tested our mica on our different colors on different clay. We learned a little bit about mica. I did do a little bit of sanding. We did use our regular tools, our tissue blade, our other sculpting tool, our glue. We use Craft Smart, and we're off and running. So good luck to everybody.